Hi, it's Alex from You Should Craft, and today we're going to crochet a cotton face scrubby. So these are reusable and awesome for like taking off your makeup or using toner at night, you know, whatever you need. But basically it's just 3 rounds and it begins with a magic ring. So we'll get started on that. You can use, technically any yarn that you want. I always use cotton yarn because it washes really nice and gets soft. I use the Lily Sugar and Cream brand. And it has a lot of really fun colors, which is also cool. But so we're using an H 5mm hook, and we'll get started with our magic loop. So you'll put this yarn over your fingers, loop it around to make an X, and then insert your hook under that bottom part of the yarn, hook the top, and then flip it around. So I'll show you that one more time. So loop it around, make the X, and pull it through. So we're going to be crocheting puff stitches into this ring. So I like to kind of set up my ring, and you can make it a little bit smaller just so it's more manageable in your hands. But basically you'll chain 1, and then we're going to get started with our puff stitches. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over again, and pull it up. So you're going to do this for a total of 4 times. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up. Now we have 5 loops on here. We're going for 11. Alright, so now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 loops on our hook. And for a puff stitch, you're going to yarn over and pull all 11 loops through. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky to get them all out, and you kind of have to do a little bit of wiggling. And then you're going to close off that puff stitch with a chain, and we're going to do 1 more chain just to kind of keep our puff stitches separate. So you're doing the puff and then you're chaining 2. So for our next puff, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, insert hook, yarn over, pull through. Okay, so we have our 11 loops. And then we're pulling all 11 through. Again, you kind of gotta like wiggle it a little bit to make sure you're getting all of the loops because there are so many. And then once we have our puff, we chain 1 to close it off and 1 to space it out. And we're gonna crochet 8 puff stitches into this ring. So same deal, we're gonna do these steps 5 times to get those 11 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now you should have 11 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yarn over and pull them all through. This is especially hard with cotton yarn because it doesn't have a lot of stretch in it, which is great because it means that your crochet scrubbies aren't gonna like stretch out, but it makes it a little bit harder to do your puff stitches. So again, we have our puff. We're gonna chain 1 to close it and 1 to space it out. So now we're gonna make 5 more puff stitches into this. Okay, so once you have your 8 puffs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, you're gonna do the magical part of the magic ring, and you're gonna pull the tail end to close it up. So because these puff stitches are so big, we're not gonna have that invisible center circle like you would on some smaller projects, but it's gonna be a nice tight fit. And then we can just join to the starting chain at the very top of our puff. Just join with a slip stitch and then chain 1 again. Yarn over, and we are going to do some more puff stitches. So into the top of the puff, we're going to do 2 puff stitches. So there's going to be 16 going all the way around, and don't forget those chains on the middle, or in the middle. So again, we're repeating those steps 5 times. So we have 1 left, so yarn over, put your hook through, yarn over, pull it all through, and then pull all 11 loops through. And if you ever get kind of these weird bumps because you messed up your yarn, you can just sort of like poke it to smooth it out and hide the weird parts. Alright, so finish it off with the chain 1 to space it, and then do another puff stitch into this same space. So we're crocheting 2 puff stitches on the top of the puff stitch from the previous row. So yarn over, put your hook through, pull the loop through, and we'll do that for a total of 5 times until we have 11 loops on our hook. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Great. wiggle it all through. Chain to close. And then we're going to skip the chain that we did to connect them, and we're going to do 2 more puff stitches in the top of the previous puff stitch. Oops. So it's really easy to accidentally make a DC or a double crochet, but if we were doing that, we would be making bobble stitches instead of puffs. So you could just if you did it, you could just undo it. And again, we're going into the top of the previous puff. Alright, so now I've crocheted 2 puff stitches in the tops of all of the previous puff stitches from the first row, or round, and now I just have 1 left. So I'm going to put it into that same stitch. And keep doing this until I get 11 loops. 1 more for a total of 5 times. And then you'll yarn over and wiggle all of these other loops, all 11. And then to finish your puff stitch, you'll chain 1 to finish. Oops. And chain 1 to space it out. And then you'll join to the top of the previous puff stitch with a slip stitch. Chain 1 for your starting chain. Yarn over, and now we're just going to single crochet in all of these chains. So between the spacer chains and the chains at the top of the puff stitches, you should have 32 single crochets going all the way around. So we'll single crochet in that first space. And we're just single crocheting around. So you'll put 1 in that top chain from the puff stitch, and then you'll put 1, I've just been putting it in this gap, it doesn't even have to be inside the chain. So just like 1 for the top of the puff stitch and 1 in the gap all the way around until you have 32. And honestly, at this point, it doesn't even matter if you miss a stitch, because this is the final row of the project. So if you skip 1 and end up with 31, it doesn't matter. But so we're just continuing on with our single crochets. Alright, so we are almost done. So you'll do your final single crochet, and then you'll just join with a slip stitch or an invisible join. And then you'll trim your yarn and weave in your ends. And you've got your very own reusable cotton face scrubby. And if you're wondering about the little gaps, these will close when you wash it. And it'll get a lot tighter because cotton shrinks a little bit. So you'll still have this center hole, but the other spots will fill in a little bit more. But thank you so much for watching. Be sure to tag your face scrubbies with #YouShouldCraft so that I can see them on Instagram or Twitter or whatever social media you use.